Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all. We will start, as always, with a question that comes in advance from our family joining on the internet, online. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone right here in the center, so if you have any question, sure, I'll start with one of these and then we'll take you. And then you can come up to the mic and just share your name and share your question. I often feel overwhelmed by the problems in the world: war, injustice, suffering. I want to help, but I'm unsure where to start, and I often feel powerless. How can I make a difference and find peace amidst such widespread suffering? This is asked by Daniel from New York. So we'll start with the second part of the question first and then move to the first part second. So the second part, he ends by saying, how can I find peace amidst so much suffering? It's critical to realize the peace we find amidst the suffering is not peace by pushing away the suffering. It's not peace that we find by turning our head to not look at the starving child. It's not peace that we find by simply turning off the news because we don't want to know about what's happening with global warming, or we don't want to know what's happening to children and women and innocent people around the world. Now, obviously, as an aside, you need to significantly limit the amount of news you intake just for your own mental peace. But we need to allow enough in that we are aware of problems. We're not meant to be here in ignorance, in illusion, in blindness. Now, you don't need to see every newscast there is about an earthquake. You know, there was an earthquake. Thousands of people died. Obviously, people are going to be suffering without shelter or water or food. You don't need to watch video after video after video. You know what's happened. But the peace that we find is a peace that coexists with the suffering. And that's really important. It's not found by pushing away suffering. It's found by expanding the sense of awareness and self so much inside that two simultaneous realities can coexist. And the two simultaneous realities are: all is God, all is perfect. There is nothing but God. There is nothing but perfection. And I am here in a human incarnation with a human karmic package, and a critical part of that human karmic package is the ability to feel compassion, to feel empathy, to use my skills, my brain, my innovation, my initiative to solve problems. There is something divinely and sacred human about us, that when we see a hungry child on the street, wants to reach into our bag and give them whatever food we might have in our bag. Spirituality is not turning off that sacred human instinct, but it is allowing that human instinct to exist and to give to it. Absolutely. By all means, give what you have. As Khalil Gibran says so beautifully, give now, so the joy of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. Give, give, give. Absolutely. And amidst the giving, we are able simultaneously to exist in an awareness that this being over here has agreed on some soul level, some cosmic drama level, to play the part of the poor child so we can play the part of the compassionate, empathetic person who gives. And that it's all happening on a stage, a divine stage. But they are giving us essentially the prompt. If you take part in, stage productions or TV or whatever it is, well, you need the person with you to give you their line, to prompt you for your line. If the person you're doing a scene with suddenly takes off their costume and doesn't recite their lines, you can't play your role. So the awareness is, it's all perfect, it's all God, there is nothing but God. We are just playing our roles. And yet, on this other side, part of my role, a critical part of my role, is the very authentic feeling of empathy. Most people don't get high blood pressure when they strap themselves into a car. A lot of people get it when they strap themselves into a plane. But if you look at the number of people who die every year by car crashes versus plane crashes, it's astronomically more people. Very few people are dying in plane crashes every year. I don't know if it's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but I mean, it's an enormous number of people are dying in car crashes every year. But car crashes don't make the news, airplane crashes do. People are much more afraid of dying by being struck by lightning than dying from diarrhea. Diarrheal deaths don't make the news. Lightning strike deaths do. Your chance of being struck by lightning and killed is essentially negligible. Live in a third world country, your chance of dying of diarrhea is actually tragically high. But it doesn't make the news, so it's not what we see. So when you're feeling overwhelmed by the problems of the world, try not to allow yourself to succumb to the bias of that which gets the most news is the biggest problem we face. That which gets the most news is that which sells newspapers. End of story. Has nothing to do with the bigness, the commonness, the likelihoodness, the global impact of it. It's whatever the algorithms have taught them over the years sells the most newspapers. That's what gets printed in the newspapers. Allow yourself to focus on what are the problems we face that you can do something about. We all have so many different skills and abilities and opportunities and resources. What can you do something about? And it may be little. It may be little. The other day I was feeling particularly dejected about the state of the world. And so I went to my favorite elephant adoption website, orphanage. It's a beautiful orphanage in Nairobi that I love and support, and adopted 2 new elephants. In the scheme of things, it's small, but it was in the moment something that I could do that A, is going to have, albeit small, a bit of a ripple impact on conservation efforts for orphaned elephants in the wild in Africa. But what it is it's something that enables us to feel in the moment, because that which I was feeling dejected about was something I didn't have any control over. And when you feel miserable about something you have no control over, not a lot of, fine, write a lot of checks, donate a lot of money. Some people have a lot of time, no money. No problem. Give of your time. Some people are, IT tech, some are engineers, some are artists, some are whatever it is. We need all hands on deck. And so find something that you can actually be part of. Again, tragically, that which fills our mind through this availability bias tends to be that about which we can't do much. And so it makes us feel really hopeless and helpless. But there's so much we can do so much about. And whether it's simply becoming a vegetarian, or being vegetarian for a certain number of meals, a day a week, whether it's taking the money that you were going to spend on a shopping trip to kind of make you not so depressed and use it to buy clothes for a very poor person to use to go on a job interview. You know, one of the cycles that poor people go through is they can't get jobs because they don't have nice clothes to wear on job interviews. They don't have a place to shower. They don't, just little tiny things. Can you contribute in some way? There's so much we can do, but we have to unglue our eyeballs from the screens that are showing us only that about which we can do nothing but become outraged and furious, and therefore debilitated and impotent. Ask yourself, what can you do? And then do it. And then ask yourself, is there more I can do? What else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And what you'll find, every one of you, is there is so much you can do. But you've got to think creatively rather than let yourself be numbed in outrage, in panic, in fear, in fury over the stuff that we can't do anything about. Other questions? Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
I'm Federica. I'm from Italy. And my question is, how does karma impact our destiny if we have one?
Great. Karma creates your destiny. Our destiny is the sum total of our karma, or of the karma that is bearing fruit in this lifetime. But as we were talking about last night, we also have free will. Here's a really easy way to think about it. Let's say you've been given a cow in this moment. Okay? Call that your destiny. That cow is the sum total of everything you've done in past lives, everything you've done in this life, all of that which is bearing fruit now. Some of it might bear fruit in next life, but your stuff that's bearing fruit now, sum total of it is a cow. You cannot change it. You cannot rewind life and do something different and end up with a goat instead, or an elephant or a cat instead. You've got a cow. Cannot change it. But the cow gives us a lot of things. The cow gives us manure. If we use that manure in our fields, it's a fantastic organic fertilizer. Our fields will be beautiful and lush, and we can grow things and feed people. Cow also gives us milk, assuming that the cow is treated like a member of your family with lots and lots of love and fed only beautiful organic food and no nonsense. That milk is nectar. You can make ghee and yogurt and cheese and so much from it. But if you dump the milk in your field and you eat the manure, you're going to get sick and your crops are going to die. That was not predestined. People are like, oh, I guess it was predestined. No, the cow was your destiny. Your illness and the failure of your crops only became predestined when you decided to dump the milk in the field and eat the manure. When you got the cow, you had a choice. What are you going to do? You got brown stuff, white stuff, yellow stuff. The yellow stuff is a great disinfectant. Use it on your countertops, your floors. All natural, eco-friendly cleanser. But what are you going to do with it? And the dilemma in life is a lot of times we don't know what to do. We've got this thing, it's giving us stuff, we don't know what's what. And this is why gurus, mentors, scriptures, wise beings, yogis, sages, mystics of different traditions, why it's so important to have them. Because a lot of times we don't know. Like, hey, I've got this thing with 4 legs, and it's given me something that's brown, and it's given me something that's white, and I don't know what's what, I don't know what to do, can you guide me? Or you look around, and you look at someone else who's got a cow, and their field is doing great, and they're healthy, and you say, hey, what do you do with the brown stuff? What do you do with the white stuff? It's how we learn. But in our ego, in our closed-mindedness, a lot of times we block out wisdom. In the, I know what I'm going to do, don't tell me what I'm going to do, it's my life. And the universe is like, okay. Nobody's going to reach down and stop you from eating the manure. You're just going to get sick. That's where free will comes in. So everything you've been given up till this moment, including this moment, is your destiny. Sitting right here, right now, has been predestined by your past. What you do with what you get in this moment is entirely up to you. And that then creates your next moments. I always say now is the pre of that which is predestined for you tomorrow, next week, next year. Yeah, yes. And then you. Or somebody here had it, okay.
Sadhviji, Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
I have been suffering from depression for the last 44 years. What is the remedy?
Depression from the last 44 years. So, it's impossible to diagnose the reason for it like this. If you go to a standard psychiatrist, they'll say, oh, you're depressed because you have an imbalance in serotonin. And they'll give you something called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an SSRI. And you'll take it, and it'll put more serotonin into your brain. And it works for some people. If you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, they'll feel your pulse, they'll look at your tongue, they'll tell you about imbalances in the pranic sheath of the body, the pranamaya kosha. In your doshas, they'll give you a variety of solutions around what to eat and what herbs to take and all of this. From psychological and sociological perspectives these days, we're actually learning a lot about the impact of lifestyle on depression. There's a fantastic book that I would really highly recommend by a man named Johann Hari, Johann and then Hari. He's a British journalist, and I'm trying to remember the name of the book. I'm sorry? Say that louder? No, not Sapiens. No. It'll come to me, but that's the author's name for sure. And it's a book on where we've gone wrong with the understanding of depression. And it's a brilliant book because it looks at issues in our societies and our lifestyles, everything ranging from what we eat to our jobs. You know, one of the pieces that he posits that I found really powerful is he says, look, we know the impact of junk food on the body. And he's done all of this research over years of interviewing like the top doctors. He's a researcher, a journalist, not just an author from his own head. He's actually spent years traveling the world researching. And he says, you know, we know that junk food causes illness in the body. We also know that it causes imbalances in the brain and emotional issues. You know what happens if you give your kids too much junk sugar and they bounce off the walls. And he said, but what we're seeing is the impact of junk values on our minds. That the values our society is giving us, values of success, values of goals, values of what to look for, what's right, what's wrong. And he spoke a lot, just sort of anthropologically, having interviewed a lot of top researchers and scientists around the importance of our internal value system for our mental health. And that if we don't have an anchoring in a value system that is deep and meaningful and makes sense and that we're able to live according to, that our mental health plummets. So that's just one example. Now, if you've suffered from this for 44 years, I would guess, hypothesize, that your depression is probably caused by a constellation of different things. You probably do have an imbalance in the brain. Whether that's what caused it, or whether that is simply something that has come to coexist with it due to having suffered from this for decades, we don't know, and honestly, it doesn't matter. But if you've been suffering for 44 years, I would absolutely say to you, do not feel badly about going to an MD psychiatrist and getting yourself a prescription for an antidepressant. Like, if you've been working for 44 years to overcome depression, see what medicine can do. You know, you look at people with diabetes, for example. A whole bunch of them, a huge percentage of them, if they really take their diet and exercise and lifestyle seriously, can actually recover from it. They do not need to go on insulin. And yet, there's a small number who, no matter what they change in their diet, no matter what they change in their exercise, are going to need to have insulin. And that's okay. There's nothing to feel badly about. Sometimes we really do need the assistance of some kind of medicine. And just like you wouldn't feel ashamed for being one of those people who, despite a good diet, despite exercise, nonetheless has high blood sugar, which, by the way, we know is hereditary, as is depression. You may have it. Do not feel badly. So I would look at that. I would absolutely go and see whether antidepressants for some period of time cannot be really beneficial for you. But I would also look at lifestyle, because it becomes a a bit of a cycle, a vicious cycle, and a cycle that we get stuck in. Because we're depressed, we don't want to connect with other people. We would much rather sit home alone than connect with other people. But we know that connection with others is a critical part of mental health. And sometimes you need the antidepressants to get yourself able to connect with other people, to drag yourself out of the house. But the fact that you're here means to me that you're actually you're in pretty good shape because you've brought yourself here. So I'd say absolutely go to see a good psychiatrist who can look at getting you on some medicine that will bring about just a better balance in brain chemistry. I would also really look at your connections. It's a huge piece. Lastly, fulfillment in life. One of the greatest and most powerful treatments for depression, even for temporary sadness, the whole spectrum, is service, helping others. Directly if you can. It can be people, it can be reading to blind people, it can be visiting old people in an old age home, it can be volunteering in an orphanage or, a school, it can be planting trees. It can be working in an animal shelter. But something in which you are helping others directly. So it's not just writing a check, it's not stuffing envelopes, but it's something very directly. Something so that at the end of the day when you go to sleep, you know that it mattered to the earth that you were born and that you got out of bed today. Start with those 3 things, and then keep me posted on how it goes. So I don't have a specific doctor, but a psychiatrist, because you're... Oh, Johann Hari. It's Johann, and then Hari. What is it? Lost Connections. The book is called Lost Connections. Fantastic book. Fantastic book. Yeah. Yes.
Namaste. My name is Abhay, and my question is, how do I find hope when it feels like there's no hope left?
How do you find?
Hope when it feels there's no hope left.
Great. How do you find hope when it seems there's no hope? You look at your definition of what you're hoping for. The dilemma with a lot of us is we have goals that lead us into misery. We have goals that aren't necessarily practical or pragmatic or possible even. And then we become miserable when they don't happen. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a huge, high goal. No problem. But make sure that you also have some low-hanging fruit goals. For example, if I decide that my goal is that I'm going to become a beautiful singer, and that I'm going to, just have this angelic singing voice, and, well, it's not a skill I've been born with. I'm sure that with lessons I could get better, but if I had the innate skill to become a beautiful singer, chances are at some point before the age of 53, I would have discovered that. Right? People who can sing, they know when they're kids that they can sing. Then they get singing lessons and they get better and better. But, it's the kid who at 4, 5, 8 is singing. For me to hold on to that, and every day, oh my God, I still am not a good singer. Oh my God, I'm still not a good singer. You'd say, how do you have hope? Well, I've got hope about the wrong thing. So you've got to look at, what am I having hope about? If I decide that my hope, my goal, is to be, the richest person in the country or the richest person in my block, well, maybe the skills that I have are not necessarily the skills that make people billionaires. Don't have a business mind at all. Not an entrepreneur. Not somebody who thinks about things and says, oh, I know, I'm going to invent this or invent that. Don't even charge anybody for anything. Like, how are you going to become a billionaire? It's the wrong goal. If every day I wake up and I say, oh my God, I'm not a billionaire yet, I'm just going to be miserable. But the solution is not, how do I keep having hope that I'm going to become a billionaire? It's, how do I look at what my goal is and properly align my goal with A, my actual skill set, B, what it seems my karmic journey in this life is, my dharma is in this life. I'm pretty clear that my dharma is not, even if I were capable, to become the CEO of some massive company that was going to make me a billionaire. So really looking at what are your actual skills? What is it that fills you with a sense of fulfillment? What is the goal you're holding on to? And do you have any control over it? Because a lot of times we also have goals of things we don't have any control over. I'm going to make that girl fall in love with me. It's the last thing I do. I'm going to marry that one. Well, by all means, give it a shot. No problem. Court her, do whatever. But there comes a time at which we have to recognize, especially if she said, hey, I'm not interested. Comes a time that you recognize, all right, not the right goal to hold. Let me hold a different goal. God, please send me someone I can love. All right, I thought it was her. I guess it's not her. Send me someone I can love. So if you're feeling hopeless in the achievement of your goals, look at your goals. Set different goals. There's so much you can achieve. There's so much you can do. Hopeless is, honestly, it's a cop-out. It's an excuse for laziness and complacency. Oh, I'm hopeless. I'll just sit here and watch TikTok. Set different goals. Never be hopeless. First of all, everything is possible. Miracles happen every day. I certainly could wake up tomorrow and be a fantastic singer. Who knows? I'm not going to, let go of the idea. Why not? Right? I mean, why not? Hold it as a vision. But not in a way that you're depressed when it doesn't happen. Sure, hold the vision that you're going to wake up and discover that, somebody has sent you a winning lottery ticket and lo and behold, you are a billionaire. Sure, hold the vision. But not in a way that you're depressed when it doesn't happen. Set goals that are in line with your dharma, with your skill set, with which way the universe seems to be flowing you. Would we like to have a goal that Ganga should flow upstream back to Gomukh? Okay, hold the goal. Maybe for some reason they need salt water up at Gomukh, who knows? But it's really unlikely it's going to happen. So you don't want to set your happiness on that. Work for things that you can actually achieve. And that are things that actually fill you, rather than just holding, onto some groundless goal that there's no traction you can actually get in. Okay? It's a marriage of the real and the ideal. You can hold the vision of the ideal, no problem. But work toward the real. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evenings. We will not have satsang for the next few nights. I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Mumbai for a few days. I will be back either on the 17th or the 18th. We'll put something up on social media as well, and we'll also put a note up on the bulletin boards in both of the reception areas, this one here and Pujya Swamiji's reception, letting people know when satsang's gonna start again. Hopefully, most of you will still be here, and I'll have the chance to see you. And for the others, I hope that you come back again very, very, very soon.